Good afternoon, everybody. So this is Prateek Sen, and I'm from Team List Services Limited. And today I'll be the host and the moderator for today's session. So this webinar is being conducted on behalf of India Employer Forum. We call it IEF. And the IEF is basically a non-profit community site that seeks to discuss, understand, and document different aspects of employment, employability, and ease of doing business in India. Team Lead is the knowledge partner contributing to their expertise, insights, resources, research and findings. And while we also support IEF's events, webinars, and other initiatives. So this is a brief about IEF. So today's topic is a very interesting one. So we have a topic on workforce trends in manufacturing. Now, it's a very interesting topic. I will come to why it's an interesting topic, but then, we will have a set of panelists who will be, and experts who will be discussing this particular thing with me. But before that, before I introduce them, a bit of a context why we have selected this topic on manufacturing, basically the workforce trends in manufacturing, because manufacturing industry is at a pivotal juncture. And it's marked by rapid technological advancements and robust market growth. Just a few figures, like manufacturing industry contributes to almost 17 to 18% of our GDP. The target that the government has set is around 25%. Now, that's a very ambitious target. And we are sure that with this input that the government has given in budgets in terms of skill development, in terms of PLI schemes, etc., now this is going to be a huge sector. Whereas however, the one truth is, with growth, it also brings workforce challenges. Workforce challenges can be in the form of attritions. It can be in the form of skill deficit, especially in the context of Industry 4.0. So we'll discuss more on that. So this is precisely the challenges, etc., is what we need to brainstorm in this particular session. And that is why we have called our experts. We have our experts with us. I would like to welcome our three panelists, Mr. Vinod Singh, who's Head People, Energy, Process and Business Excellence from Galaxy Surfactants Limited. Welcome, Vinodji. We have Varsha Motwani, who's the Head Talent Management, Gulf Oil, India. Welcome, Varsha. And we have Shilpi Suban Pant, who's the HR leader from BD. Welcome, Shilpi. So before I proceed, a quick round of introduction from each one of you would be good. Starting with Vinod.
Yeah, so thank you, Prateek. So I'm Vinod Singh. I am heading human resource process in Galaxy Surfactants Limited, which is known as People Energy Process, because the belief is that human are not resource, they are source who create quality resource. We all know that. And therefore, calling them as a resource is not correct. And we say that we are people energizers, being in HR. With organization for now more than 16 years. In this industry, if you ask me, I think more than 20 years, I'll say. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Great to know that, Vinod. Thank you so much. Varsha?
Hey, thanks, Prateek. Hello, everyone. This is Varsha, and as Prateek mentioned, I head the talent management and leadership development practice for Gulf Oil Lubricants India Limited. And I have been in the industry for almost 11 years and done varied roles across various Indian conglomerates. So that's where my expertise is. And I think I've handled almost all the facets of HR, thanks to the job rotations and everything that we facilitate for the larger masses and for ourselves as well. So I have done roles across employee relations, business partnering, to COE roles, L&D, talent management, performance, total rewards, and so on and so forth. And here I am to share some views with all of you. Thank you.
Great to know you, Varsha. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Shilpi?
Hi, Prateek, Varsha, Vinod, and all the viewers who are watching this webinar. So, in my 14 years in HR, I've handled multiple portfolios, and that includes industrial relations, talent management, learning and development, HR strategy, of course, it's an important piece. Diversity, equity, inclusion, not the buzzword anymore. It is like, really core to HR and the organization agenda, to name a few. And I've been leading HR for manufacturing currently with Becton Dickinson, which is a global healthcare company. It's a conglomerate. And in the past, I've worked in diverse sectors, including FMCG, automobile, Alcobev, at companies like Hero Motocorp, Honda Cars, Pernod Ricard, and really delighted to join hands with my co-panelists. And we are here to discuss a most pertinent subject. So, as Prateek mentioned, glad to be sharing my views around this.
Thank you so much, LP, for the introduction. So I think a varied level of experience and all. I'm sure we'll have a great session today. And the challenges that I mentioned during my opening statement, I think we can have a healthy discussion and probably a way forward and some ideas coming in as well. So, okay, now moving on with the webinar, the topic that we have currently. So, on this particular bit, if you have seen that in my opening statements, I did mention about the India's GDP. Okay, it's been at 18%, and then obviously it's projected to move up to 25%. Obviously, the government has put in lots of thrust in the manufacturing segment, and as we speak, we have around 27 million employees in this particular sector, and this is going to now move up by few hundreds, thousands, or lakhs. Now, given that manufacturing industry is growing at such a fast pace, now what do you think are the main factors driving this steady growth? I would first invite probably Varsha to initiate this discussion, and then followed by Vinod and Shilpi.
Sure, let me take a jab at it. So, the first thing, talking about India as a country, we are front leading in the emerging economies of the world. So, while the GDP across the world, across the globe, is projected at a lesser rate, we are still on a path to the rising. Talking about automotive sector, which is more of where my experience is,
Right.
we have a lot of PLI schemes by the government. We do have a lot of shift towards sustainability, EVs coming in, and various kind of schemes wherein we are promoting sustainability overall. Our focus in ESG has been very pertinent over last many years now, and we see a lot of focus around sustainability, CSR, and so on and so forth. This coupled with growth and the kind of development that we are seeing, I think it all paves a way and makes a very strong case when we are talking about the growth in manufacturing sector. And again, it is a very, very fast-paced field to be in with the brick and mortars around. So that's my take on it. Certainly growing and certainly here for a long time. Yeah.
So great. I think thanks, Varsha, for those inputs. So PLI scheme, definitely yes. I think that is one of the factors. I think over the last few years, it has got a mixed response. And some of the organizations, taking it up very seriously and achieving the targets and reaping the benefits of PLI scheme, and some of them have been losers in that. But then I'm sure with the revised PLI scheme that the government had introduced a few years back, I think things are back to normal now. Okay, Vinod, over to you on this particular aspect of, what do you think are the main factors driving the steady growth in manufacturing from your experience, please?
Yeah, so one thing, if you see, the India growth, what Varsha talked about, but if you see the population growth and the country having more than 60% of the population, which are in the category of 35.
Yeah.
And the way we have seen now, women are also moving into the workforce, and the consumption pattern of this young crowd,
right,
and their aspirations, I think that is the fundamental, factor of driving this growth. Second, I see that, the way government has come up with the Make in India concept, a lot of things in the manufacturing sector have started happening in India.
Yeah.
For example, your, our defense sector, this is first time in last so many years, India started exporting to countries outside. And if you see a number of companies moved into different sectors and a lot of manufacturing happening there. So, I see the two very important factors. One is Make in India, and second is your population growth, and that too of younger crowd, more than 65% around, and their aspirations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think pertinent points. Without, I think the young population is one of the. In fact, today I was reading in one of the newspapers. Okay, it says comment today itself that because we have a very young population, so we'll be able to export people as well to countries where the population is older, like for example Germany.
Yeah,
So
they've been promoting about
yes.
that a lot.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you're right. And if you see, Mercer has started lot of programs on global talent mobility. And that becoming one of the critical competencies for each of the organization in the manufacturing sector, so that
Yes.
a lot of mobility is going to happen the way we are expanding outside the country as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing, the whole story. Over to Shilpi. So what's your views on this particular aspect?
So a lot of relevant points were actually raised by Varsha, and of course Vinod, and I totally resonate with that. That India is really becoming an attractive destination, and especially with respect to global investors and how the FDIs are really coming in. It indicates that a very important factor why FDIs first of all are coming to India per se is our cost leadership and our real inclination towards adoption, very fast adoption of technology. So whatever technology comes globally, we are fast to adopt, we are fast to adapt to changes, and also sort of replicate wherever possible very cost effective models of implementation. And not to say the least, not only private sector, but it is actually the government sector which is taking the lead in this space. And just a rhetorical question, but to ask our co-panels, how many of us have actually visited a bank for any of the services other than a loan facility, etc., in the last 5 years, for instance, or ever since COVID happened, ever since demonetization happened, or the way our toll plazas have been converted. We have these smart tags and everything. So the way government is actually being the torchbearer, private sector is actually lagging, and we need to understand that whatever technology that we are adopting, it is going to help us to be the cost leader of the globe, and that is when we'll become more attractive and will really, right now it is 17 to 18% of GDP, but it's to meet that 25% aspiration. We have a lot of journey to travel as a private sector.
Great. I think Shilpi, words of wisdom. I think definitely yes, it has to be a synergy between the government as well as the private sector. While government has brought in lots of aggressive schemes, lots of aggressive intent of technology innovation, etc. I think private sector also has to catch up. I'm sure there are organizations who are contributing to this, but then more needs to be done to meet that ambitious target of 25%. Very well said.
Pratik,
Yeah,
if you allow me, I would like to add one
please.
more thing.
Yeah.
See, if you see India from the FDI context, what Shilpi has mentioned.
Yeah.
Now see, the world is seeing as China plus one.
Exactly.
Now, that is another very critical factor where a lot of manufacturings are moving to India from foreign. So that is also one of the reasons, if you ask me, for the growth of manufacturing.
That is
Absolutely.
absolutely true, Vinod. Just to share, of course, we all are aware of what geopolitical background, how it is evolving, and definitely it is weighing in favor of India. So good to go for.
Even Mr. Trump saying that 25% to Mexico and 25% to Canada and China will be worse than that. Possibly we will have a lot to play here.
Absolutely. And I think, see, this China plus one policy, without that you were mentioning, is I think one of the things is they are feeling a heat as of today. Okay. And I was reading the news the other day in which China has started reacting to this particular aspect. They were strangely very quiet for some time, but then they have started reacting to this aspect, and where they have imposed some restrictions as well to the Indian companies, etc. So I think it's going to be a huge fight for supremacy. And I'm sure India will come out victorious in this particular thing. But then I will just wait and watch as of now, because China is again retaliating back. Uh, so so great points, all three of you. I think that answers the question for the first question. That is basically the main factors which is driving the steady growth. Now, coming on to the next aspect of it. So, in one of the studies that we as team leads did, okay, especially on Industry 4.0, we could see that, there were lots of skill gaps from the perspective of Industry 4.0. Uh, where with skill gaps, okay, we'll discuss on the skill gaps at a later point of time. But then, with the perspective of Industry 4.0, which roles do you think are currently in demand within India's manufacturing sector? I mean, you can probably speak on basis of your own industry for the matter, or your own organization for the matter, or holistically also we can have a discuss. Just a understanding of which roles would be more predominant in times to come with Industry 4.0 as a perspective. So probably any Shilpi you can go first probably.
Yes, so definitely, Pratik, it's going to change the way, we are seeing skill sets as of now. Many hot skills, which used to be hot skills in the past decade, are completely disappearing now. So,
Right.
for example, if I speak of automotive sector per se, the way EVs are coming in, so the whole, a dichotomy of a mechanical versus electrical, it is totally disappearing. The way
Absolutely.
mechatronics as a subject, as a discipline, it is catching on, and it is being included in curriculum in a very, very big way. It is going to help industries. So popularizing this kind of discipline and making it more and more accessible to the masses is what industries, as a pioneer, can do that. And definitely automation, robotics, so those kind of engineering disciplines are what even students can look forward to adopting, rather than the conventional ones. And in terms of roles, if I speak, then a lot of I would say attention needs to be given towards something like called cybersecurity. So whenever we are managing the big data, so there are pertinent issues around confidentiality, how we are managing, who's accessing. All of those challenges have to be taken care of by using this kind of expertise, which is again becoming a niche skill. There's a lot of demand, but relatively skilled labor is not available. And thirdly, I would like to bring attention to our ESG goals as well. And now
Right.
every private sector is also supposed to contribute to the ESG goal. And we really have a dearth of talent in that. So the way sustainability officers need to be a part of the talent pool is something that
Yes.
we see as a deficit.
Yeah, I think pertinent points. Especially, I resonate with also on the cyber security thing as well. So, cyber security is one of the most essential things. I mean, lots of attacks happening, etc. So, while we are moving towards Industry 4.0, we have to also cognizant of the fact that cybersecurity remains one of the major focus areas. But then roles that we have been talking about, I think that is also quite pertinent. Especially robotics, automation, mechatronics, etc. Vinod, what's your views on this particular aspect?
So, yeah, I mean, I was reading a book by Vijay Govindarajan's very latest
Hmm.
book,
Hmm.
Fusion Strategy,
Hmm.
where he's saying that now, if you see the automation, or you talk about digitalization, it has moved from service and other sectors to industries, manufacturing
Right.
one.
Right.
And rightly said, Industry 4.0, which has started in a big way, but it's a long way to go in many of the sectors in manufacturing setup itself. What I see very clearly is one thing which is going to be very, very important for us to understand is there is an integration of. So IoT 4.0 is going to help you only and only when you have an automation in place.
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of organizations have moved for IoT 4.0 with the existing things by using sensors, and they are getting a lot of data. Now, where they are struggling is these data to converting into data analytics to give you real
Yes.
feed. You need a data engineers. And that's where manufacturing sector, if you ask me, we are not conversant with data engineering sector. I think that is one role which I'm seeing that which is emerging. And the thinking of integrating digitalization with the automation is very, very important. So what Shilpi said very rightly, that automation is something which is going to be very, very critical, where you are rather than saying skilling up, you are saying, can I eliminate the skills?
Yeah.
The moment you eliminate the skills, what are you doing is you're reducing number of incidences, number of errors, number of reworks, and so on and so forth. So I think the thought on how are we going to eliminate various skills where we don't need people. So I could talk it this way, it may be little very different for HR people, but I said, can I eliminate a skill in the organization which will reduce my risk? For me,
Absolutely.
any role, any person entering the organization, they bring capability and also risk with them. And that's where eliminating various skills may help. So data engineering is one, automation is one, but thought process and thinking of every role in terms of integration of both will be critical going forward. That's what my take.
I think Vinod, yeah, please.
Yes, so just because Vinod mentioned that how eliminating the skill, that's also an interesting part of it. So it actually refers to the de-skilling of multiple jobs. So when we speak of repetitive jobs which are will lead to monotony per se or not so ergonomical, so those kind of jobs we really need de-skilling in those, and automation and robotics and bringing in of relevant technology which is cost effective also is going to make the way for us.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think,
very rightly said by Shilpi.
Absolutely.
Let me add one more. See, data will be, I mean, if you see Data Paradox by Sumit Seth, I mean, it's a beautiful book. It's talking about the kind of data we are generating today.
Yeah.
Because of this IoT 4.0, you will have humongous data. If it is not engineered well, analytics are not going to come out. And if you don't have analytics, you're not going to come up with the improvements, right? So I think analytical capability and data engineering capability will be very, 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 very important here.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Varsha, yeah. Over.
Yeah, awesome. So we're talking about fourth industrial revolution, okay, and our major understanding about Industry 4.0 is how do we automate processes, and like both my panelists rightly said, it's about automating processes, enhancing productivity and cost effectiveness, and so on and so forth. Certainly, all the roles that come under automation, robotics, everything else that can enhance the processes is extremely important. At the same time, certain niche skills for every sector that have become extremely more important. So if I have to talk about automotive, all the roles that come from a research perspective have now become all the way more important because they call for a way more depth and relevance to today's world. So being SMEs is something that again paves the way in this scenario. Talking about some geopolitical scenarios and its impact on Industry 4.2, we see the supply chain roles in great demand because the current scenarios and the future scenarios as we envisage with wars going on in different pockets and conflicts and so on and so forth, it becomes extremely important how efficient our supply chains are. And I think that all the roles related to that are extremely important. Nevertheless, being an HR, I would love to talk about this subject that radical human leadership roles will be extremely important. So whether it's Industry 4.0 or we have something new that comes in technical sphere, which reduces the processes, but at the same time, humanizing the entire work scenarios, and that calls for human leadership, which has been existing, but how do you make it radically human leadership? So very interesting subject. We have been working a bit around this at Gulf in terms of our leadership development, but I think that again is a segment of roles which will which are here to stay in this scenario as well. So yeah, that's my take, Pratik, and my co-panelist on this. Yeah.
I think, yeah, of course. See, Industry 4.0 is a very loosely used term in many of the contexts. So, Industry 4.0, people think it's only about automation. Like what Vinod mentioned, even both of you, Varsha and Sip, you mentioned, it has to be also analyzed. The data has to be analyzed, and data engineers and people have to get the data, and then based on that they do it. For example, in the case of predictive maintenance, even in the Industry 4.0, if you automate a factory floor, predictive maintenance have to be predicted, right? That has to be done by somebody, right? The human has to do it. So the capability, the skill set will be totally different from the normal mundane stuff that a person does as of now, nuts and bolts, fit katta and all those stuff they do, right? So I think Industry 4.0 would require lots of enhancement of skills, a different skill set of people who will probably replace these people, but then with a different skill set. So that way, I think pretty interesting conversations on that bit.
Pratik, just to add,
Yeah.
add to that, there is also a concept now is about remote repair and maintenance,
Yeah.
which is all done on this Industry 4.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is one which will be like, I see that, elimination of skill will happening much faster than what we are expecting.
Absolutely. I think this is a very important point. You mentioned remote repair maintenance, right?
Yes. So
Yes.
based on the data, what you get from the sensors, you will start maintaining the machines from the remote. So possibly I will have 10 factories across. I will have one central controlling center from where all the repair and maintenance will be done online. So that's how I see, and that will be eliminating a lot of skills which is there happening on the ground, and a lot of technicians working there.
Absolutely. So this would be a combination of predictive as well as remote maintenance, right?
Yes.
So a combination. It's a deadly combination, by the way. So
Yes. Actually, what Vinod is mentioning, so also a lot of the efficiency or the productivity of it also depends on what kind of integration we are doing with our technology versus the hardware. So for instance, whatever software we are including, if the hardware, the adjacent hardware is not agile enough or not responsive enough, it is going to further bring a lot of frustration within our skilled workforce as well. So while we are investing, we have to be prudent about a very good combination of both, so that it actually gives us the desired results.
should be true. Absolutely. So, I think very good discussion on this particular point on the Industry 4.0. I think this Industry 4.0 will be a separate topic, a webinar topic itself. Okay, so we just we have just the tip of the iceberg as of now. But anyways, that's how this webinar is. So we'll have constraint of time. So we'll move on to the next question, and that is one of the things that we felt that in fact, with the growth of the manufacturing sector, this one of the bottlenecks is, of course, the attrition. Okay. Just to give you some figures, so overall manufacturing sector has, I'm sure you will be aware, so it might vary from industry to industry. Overall manufacturing sector has an attrition rate of 14%. It varies between 14% to 16%. Within that, the contractual employees attrition is more than 43%. It's huge. If at all, an organization employs contractual employees, so it's around 43%. And apart from that, the infant attrition, which are typically those attritions which happen between 1 month to 3 months, is around 8.3%. Again, that is a very too high as compared to many other sectors. So this is one of the challenges that all the companies are facing. I'm sure even your companies face. So how do, as a company, or from your perspective, from your manufacturing segment, or for the matter overall as a manufacturing sector, do you think the companies can address this challenge of either the attrition, overall attrition, or the infant attrition? So how can that be managed and how that can be controlled? So probably, I mean, Varsha, you can probably take this question first.
Certainly. Let me begin with. So we talked about 3 attritions here, Pratik. You talked about manufacturing attrition,
Yes.
which I'm just making my notes. So 14 to 16% is what you mentioned. You talked about contractual attrition, which is 43% start number, and infant attrition 8.3%.
Yes.
talking about manufacturing attrition, in my organization landscape, it is very different. But considering the studies at large, and when I say different, it's very low, so which is good for us.
That's good.
But yeah, but considering that, I think that's where the entire role around talent management, handling talent, providing career growth to individuals, and that can be across any grades of organization we are talking about. We are talking about middle managers, entry level employees, or senior leadership. How do you create the entire talent fungibility landscape? So the biggest challenge, I think, as an individual employee that is faced right now is around career stagnation. Mostly, of course, in many parts of different surveys, say a GPTW, Gallup, we do discover many other aspects of it. But while most are considered as hygiene, I think what's in it for me, and that comes to career growth and the ever open question around compensation, is something that is a challenge. I'm certain that with more focus coming in around talent management practices, looking at rewarding people differently and not rewarding mediocrity and all, that takes care of, or will certainly take care a little of it. Talking about the contractual attrition, to my understanding, largely it's around the job security bit.
Right.
Lack of benefits. Many organizations still have age-old practices where contractual employee will have some benefits, and it can be by design also many a times, given the mammoth numbers, they have to differentiate that. So that's been a pertinent challenge. But at the same time, I am amazed by the entire IT landscape, where people want to be contractually employed and not be committed to one company. There are individuals who are subject matter expertise, and I'm talking about Generation Y, Generation Z, who want to participate in a hackathon, solve a problem, and move on to some other company, providing them extreme flexibility. So I think if I can leave people who will be watching this, especially working on temp roles, to see their job as specialist or someone who is giving or contributing something, then in that case also it will take or probably offload a lot of burden around attrition. Of course, with organizations being a fair and safe workplaces, it will be a mix of that. Infant attrition, I think the larger challenges, role mismatches. I think that's what my co-panelists will also agree. Most of the times people join in, they were hired for some role, couldn't match the role, or maybe a gap in understanding could be one of the reason. And also certain gap in the entire employee experience, where people are not onboarded in a certain understanding, in a certain experiential way. I think that also does impact, and there are a lot of studies that pay disproportionate focus around the onboarding part of it, understanding your role, understanding your workplace, people, teams, everything contributes to that. So these are certain challenges that I wanted to call out. And so Vinod, would you like to pick this up?
So it's a very interesting question, first of all, Prateek, and thank you, Varsha, for bringing a very important dimensions over there. I mean, if I see my organization, and we have taken a couple of, because this was a challenge for us, so it's a very, very, resonating so well with me. Couple of years ago, we had attrition highest of 11.5% something. And that was a concern for us, because ever since we had 7, 8, 9 kind of, and 1 year we went, that was, I think, great resignation years post-COVID. And then we did complete analysis. We understood that the challenge is in the infant and, 1 to 3 years kind of. So what I did, I said, can we start analyzing now into 2 parts? One is infant up to 1 year, and 1 to 3 years will be toddler. So we started analyzing the data into infant and toddler separately. And we have seen that infant attrition is huge, which was contributing to that at least 50% of our entire attrition. And a lot of effort goes into training this new people into and inducting them into the organization. So we started an initiative called 30, 60, 90. And though many initiatives like this, we keep doing, but to make it successful, we have said that it has to be driven by technology. And the whole module in Darwinbox was configured to ensure that 30, 60, 90 is done absolutely in a sacrosanct way every 30, 90, and 60 days, 30, 60, and 90 days. In 2 years' time, we have been able to brought down the attrition in the infant category by 35%. Our target was 50. We have been able to brought down it by 35%. That also includes when you give the feedback in 30, 60, 90 on the career, role, this, that, all can be solved. But the important point is that the person who joins new in the organization, they want a lot of handholding, someone to speak to, and that's all can be done by 30, 60, 90. What we did for toddlers, now that's another very important segment where we saw 30% of the attrition coming from. We said, let us start stay interviews for these toddlers. And I have increased the number of HRBPs, trained them into stay interviewing skills, and we have done a massive work on this. And there also we have seen 25% reduction on the toddler segment. The third practice which we started from the listening management perspective is lasting impression. So people who leaves us, we take a list and say, who all are my talent, who are my keeper, and they gone. And then we have engaged a consultant, third party, and we do post 2 months of the resignation or separation. We ask that consultant to speak to each one of them, and the data is captured in a particular format and reported to us. Now that started giving us a lot of insights which they were not telling in the exit interview. So lasting impression is again making a huge difference to my entire initiative for retaining people in the organization. So these were 3 initiatives, I think, CDP, career development plan, IDP and all, training and all. Yes, we are doing, but what I thought, this insights, if taken well and configured into an initiative and a program, I think it is possible, it is easy to address any kind of attrition in the organization.
Great. I think pretty words of wisdom in this. I think infant and toddler, okay, both of them need to be treated separately. So I think the action points would also be different. So that is very enlightening thoughts that you shared on this particular agency. I'm sure the audience would be quite enlightened with such techniques that you have. Also the fact that the exit interviews, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's any other sector, exit interviews are not honest. Okay, so people sometimes people just leave for the sake of leaving. They will just give the exit interviews just for the sake of giving. But then ultimately, when they leave, then actually the real problem statement comes out, right? The analysis comes out. I think that is one thing. While you employed a consultant, it's a good investment, I would say, so as to understand why this people are leaving. At least the talented people are leaving, and that's how it will help you to control the attrition. I think very good.
So one more point, Prateek, just missed telling. So we also do, like, there's an exit interview and there is a just-in-time exit.
Yes.
The day we receive a trigger in Darwinbox, immediately HRBP will connect to that guy and have 1 hour of discussion. In next 10 days to 15 days, we want to retain that guy. That is the first. So if the keeper is there, then what all can be done to retain that guy? Trust me, we have been able to retain more than 3% of the total attrition in last year.
Superb. Shilpi, your take on this in your organization or overall as manufacturing sector as a whole?
So completely echo with Varsha, first of all, so about the career opportunities that we need to have as an organization in a very, very structured manner. So there has to be a balance between the associate expectation and the organization expectation. So definitely an integral part of how we are going to address the overall attrition per se. Now, if we come back to infant attrition or which is like, maybe the contractual attrition or somewhere at the confluence of infant and contractual. So somewhere we need to understand that, what kind of workforce mix that we are working with, right? So we have so many generations. It's like, it's not a hidden story that each generation has their own aspirations, and the kind of stability one wants, that's a different generation story altogether. Somebody wants the quality of life, and somebody in a very, very gig economy wants only sort of remote roles, hybrid roles, or project temp roles. All kinds of so one side could be generation stereotyping, but even then, we need to understand that stereotypes are largely made because they are entirely true. I mean, largely
Yes.
true. And that is why they are stereotypes in the first place. So, addressing that generational expectation is one of the key areas which an organization can tap to actually mitigate the infant attrition. So, I'll just share a story. Like, I was really moved by the success story of Vinod. Thank you for sharing this. And about the infant attrition of, let's say, the graduate engineer trainees or the diploma engineer trainees, that in one of the very, very large organizations that we used to have. Um, an induction which is extremely rosy and extremely welcoming, while my shop floor is not so welcoming. So beyond the 1 to 3 odd months of induction, when the person actually is expected to come to the shop floor, perform work with the shop floor associates, come in a rotational kind of shift environment, there is a stark change in what was communicated to that person or the GET or the TET at the beginning or during the interview process, and what kind of work environment that we are able to provide as a manufacturing. So there is a mismatch, and that increases the friction, eventually leading to infant attrition. So one that came actually as an experiment. So 6 months internship opportunities for those kind of the GETs and the DETs, so that they come and spend time with us. um, 6 months is a very good enough time for the person to evaluate whether I'm suitable for this kind of work environment or not, taking meaningful projects, working with those associates whom that person or the role would be expected to manage. How am I able to gel with that kind of population, right? So though that experiment went very well, and it drastically led to reduction in our infant attrition. Plus, another chapter that I would like to touch upon is the contractual piece or the temp piece or the flexi workforce piece. There we see a lot of it as an industry as a whole, I will say. And that is also because there's a much skill gap between what is, the outdated curricula in different colleges or the ITS that we have at an entry level, specifically, if I say, and what the industry expectation is, absolutely no bridge. The machinery, equipment, curriculum, everything is outdated. And we do not see a solution to this. But there are a few universities and a few programs that actually address this bridge, and that is a deep collaboration between industry and academia, where the students, and we have such vocational courses, used to be a good scheme, NEEM scheme, although,
Yeah.
that
So
is no longer in
yes.
place, but we have BWalk and many other skilling platforms like ASDC, studentship, wherein the people come work in the same work environment as an ordinary employee would do, but they are students and get the exact flavor of what it is like to be an employee. And that is where we, the more we get exposure to such student kind of associates, and then once we convert them to associate basis our need and hiring mandate, of course, we would be having happy employees, engaged employees, and all the productivity comes into picture.
That's brilliant, Shilpi. I think you have, in fact, one of the things that you mentioned was on the generation gaps in the organization, which you have addressed to control infant attrition, right? So that brings me to another question on gender diversity, or I don't mention gender diversity, but probably diversity. Now, diversity can be of two types, right? One can be gender diversity, and the second will be, of course, the generation diversity that you mentioned, Shilpi, right? Now, 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 if I talk about gender diversity, so in that scenario, manufacturing sector is very pathetic in terms of the number of diversity people contribution to the entire workforce is only just about 10%, except for probably in some of the cases like EVs or phone manufacturing electronics, where the percentage of the female employees are more as compared to a male counterpart. So what do you think among the three panelists that what can be done to essentially to improve this gender mix? I was also just before coming on this webinar, there was a news article that had come out today itself. So government in this Saturday, when they're coming out of the budget, they are going to do something to improve the gender diversity mix in this entire this thing, so as to propel India to the next level. So your thoughts on this particular the gender aspect, then we will probably speak a little bit on the the generation diversity. So anyways, Shilpi has mentioned gender diversity, so I would like to hear more from Vinod and Varsha on this particular aspect.
Yeah, so Pratik, I'll just talk about gender because other diversity not much explored. Because this is itself is a big challenge if you talk to me about gender diversity in manufacturing. Because when I see my data, I see that when I see only staff to staff, white collar, I'm somewhere 20%, but when I add all and see blue collar, white collar, then it comes to 7, 8, 9%.
Yes.
So the biggest challenge what I see, I mean, that's a big agenda for me for last 3 years and nothing I have been able to do much. So, but still plans are on the card. In the blue collar category, bringing more female employees. The biggest challenge what I see is that when I go to my ITIs, or when I go to my diplomas, I don't find female students. So where am I going to increase this number? So I have quality department where I can increase more chemists from BSc chemistry, MSc chemistry. Easy to do that. But when it comes to, so one dream which I have for my organization, that at least one plant will be run fully by female employees. From there, we started this journey now. What I see is that what the biggest thing which we have to do is that how are we going to increase the source of skilled female employees? So when you go to ITI, you will not find, right? So I engaged with my CSR because CSR is also something which I am taking care of. And I said, let us talk to some of the firms, NGOs who are working on this. So one is Tata Stripe, if you know that, right? So they are into skill building. So we are going to have a discussion with them. So the thought came that, can I create an ecosystem and an infrastructure and go to 10th and 12th, standard schools and bring female students to this particular place to get trained in the skills which are going to be needed for my industry, my manufacturing. That is the idea which has come. And then how am I going to deploy them? How am I going to change the entire setup? Because I have already male employees over there, shifting them, and also a lot of work is there. But I'm saying unless we get into the skill building of female employees in these categories, where the maximum work is there from the manufacturing sector perspective, I think we will not be able to make it successful. That's about how I see it.
So obviously, I think input is required, right? You cannot. It should start from the initial stage, and then you can graduate to the. But I'm sure the other CSR thing that you were trying out, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, one way of integrating the things and getting it done, because otherwise you have to rely on someone else to do that.
Right. Absolutely. Varsha, your comments on this?
So usually my comments are very crisp, but allow me to overshoot a little more at this phase because I'm very, very passionate, even when Trump has come up and called off the DEI, but I'm really passionate about that subject. So first thing first, I think the diversity and very, very rightly put forth by Pratik that diversity is a lot more than just gender per se. So we talk about diversity around education, background, which strata of society people are coming in, how diversified people are from their education background to what they are performing. And in a country like ours, where we are fixed from a certain education background to a certain role, how do we diversify all the landscapes? Our larger focus is on the gender diversity. So let's take one shot at that. The first thing is the why part of it. Okay, why is it important? Are we clear about that? Does it make a business case for us?
Just I could not restrain myself.
Yeah.
That was my very first thought.
Yes.
Unless there's a meaty business case, we'd never be able to pursue the agenda of gender diversity. It has to integrate and sync well with the business need, and then it will really, it'll fly off.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. So I think all organizations need to find their business imperative in terms of diversity and whatever works. Let me bring a very interesting organization, and I think most of us will be aware about it, is the Lemon Tree Group of Hotels. Very impressive business case they have around the entire inclusion piece, where they are having people with different challenges coming on board and doing activities, and it has turned into a business case where they are they have optimized the hotel industry time of setting up a room by certain minutes, by having people with different disabilities or challenged people onboarded. And it's a fantastic case study. I think nothing like that I have ever come across in this space. So are we clear about the why, the purpose of it, rather than just being altruistic about the entire piece of diversity? That's my one call to the organizations or people who are working in this space. But certainly there will be a purpose, because there is a larger agenda of tapping the 50% human potential, right? So that helps us find out what works for our organization. That's the first thing. Second, we talk about what part of it, what part of it, there are different mechanisms we do it. One of the very fantastic organizations that I work for, SIAT, has done immense good work in space of diversity. We were able to hire back then a bunch of the first batch was around 8 people with hearing disabilities in manufacturing. And when I say manufacturing, it's the core shop floor work that so we ended up studying all the disabilities put together, talking about the CAPEX, the OPEX changes that we will require, and how do we work it, making it a business imperative. And we were successfully able to do that at that point of time. And I think the legacy has continued thereafter. I studied one of the cases very recently where the Tata has onboarded with this entire atypical advantage group, very fantastic bunch of people working in disability space. They have also done a similar study, and trust me, it paves way for a lot more purposeful work that we do. So the entire smaller steps which aid in the what do we do. Also kind of incentivizing the hiring of diversity. I know every organization is an equal employer, but how do you create those small spaces where you say in a referral policy, create a kicker for diversity hiring or things like that, so that certainly paves small step towards the the kind of steps that we can take. But there is one more key step that I want to talk about, is how do you prepare the environment for this diversity to thrive and survive? Now, that's where the larger call is. How do you prepare the organization, the atmosphere, the shop floor, anything? So we have to address a lot of mindset shifts. And let me share, at least with my co-panelist, one of a very interesting small research that I had done in one of the organizations, and this time I won't name the organization, but I happened to structurally interview very senior leaders, close to 20 odd of them, talking about diversity and the mindset and the questions related to it. After a lot of thorough analysis, and these were very structured interviews, so after a lot of analysis, only to realize that there are many reservations that as an individual we hold, maybe from the generations, maybe different aspects of it, but there is a lot of mindset shift that needs to be called out. So that's something that we really need to focus around. interestingly, there could be a lot of innovative ways we can address these issues. One that I would like to share with all of you is in order to create a culture change or a culture shift or a larger accommodation for people on shop floor, at some point of time we had used theater. And when I say theater, there's a method of theater called forum theater, where you kind of enact a situation in front of the masses, leave them with a question, and one of them comes as a participant and gives a response to that. So you kind of elicit the desired response from the audience themselves. So different stories were enacted, and people could think about, oh, how do you handle if you have a female employee in a bunch of all the males around, or different things. So a lot of sensitization can be taken care of. So I think starting from the purpose to smaller steps to creating an entire sensitive environment for everyone to thrive is something that needs to be focused in this space. So yeah, that's my take on gender diversity.
Great, Varsha. I could see you have been so passionate in your
Absolutely.
in your expression of on this particular topic. I think some of the key pointers was why part of it, the what part of it, creating the environment. The you mentioned about forum theater. That's a very nice concept. And of course, the business case, which also resonated with Shilpi. So Shilpi, your thoughts on this? I'm sure you're yearning to go
No,
on this particular.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, yes, the overarching business agenda, how it integrates with the business, and of course, tapping to the larger talent pool that we have. Of course, about 50% of the population.
Yes.
Coming back to the social, how the society paradigm is like, and why it leads to lesser and lesser enrollment into technical courses, and that results into a dearth of talent pool that we can employ, that that employability ratio is fairly skewed when it comes to gender. And that is where the organizations, even with good intents, struggle to bring women on board. When we talk of certain sectors which are doing extremely well, for example, Varsha happened to mention the case of hospitality, wherein you would find women eager to come and work and without a social baggage that where they're going to work. However, when that fares in comparison with a hardcore manufacturing setup where it works in a rotational kind of shift environment, working in C shift itself, beyond a point in time in life, it becomes difficult for the people or the women themselves to manage, plus managing the family expectations. Also, like I said, going back to where we started, where India as an attractive destination, why it is evolving? Because we are cost leaders, needless to say. And the laws that govern the employment of women at workplace in a rotational kind of shift environment are extremely stringent. Responsible employers, they have all the good intent to abide by them. That brings in extra cost, lesser flexibility, and building the entire ecosystem itself. Now, that's a daunting task. Not every organization will have either the metal or, the kind of resources to deal with that, right? So we need to have, a lot of government incentivization also when we say employment of women. That is one my call out to whosoever is listening, somebody from a think tank or the policy making. So not only bringing the laws at place, but how we are incentivizing Make in India or the production linked incentive employing women, or let's say the way apprentices have been incentivized, the kind of model that we are working with, it actually builds the case for employers to employ apprentices. Right. So that in a similar fashion, unless we have some kind of a mandate from the government wherein we are able to make, as human resource professionals, when we present to the board or to the management, that our values will be graded. So my submission.
I think Shilpi totally resonate with this, and like I mentioned in my opening comments, I think not opening during the course of the discussion. So I think on this Saturday, you have to wait till this Saturday. There are the news that government is deciding they're coming up with certain initiatives which will enable probably some of the demands that we have put forward here will be accommodated. Some of them may not, but I am pretty much hopeful. Especially if you see in EV, for example, or for the matter, mobile manufacturing or electronics, there has been a huge success when you have taken. While those can be one can always say those are different sector of manufacturing, but then it's manufacturing ultimately, right? So if diversity is successful there, I'm sure it will be successful here. And of course, what Varsha mentioned and what also Vinod mentioned, some of the things like getting a supply of people, especially from the ITIs. Okay, what we can do in those things, in those cases. Also, the fact that when they come into the organization, creating an environment for them. Also, I like the idea of forum theater. That is also a good idea. And in your case, also the demand that you have put forward for the government to probably consider, I think should be. I'm hopeful that it will be considered.
See,
Just,
Yeah.
sorry, just to mention, the business case, the business imperatives, everything aside, a lot of studies already have proven that, with diversity, and especially talking about all the McKinsey and HBR studies, which say that with a diverse workforce, there has been a considerable amount of innovation, financial imperatives that are already being proven. So I don't think we need to start from a case. We
Yes.
already have a case. We have a 51% to be exact population, which goes untapped most of the times in the larger landscape of talent. So
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
here
thank
is
you,
the
Varsha,
odds.
for that up, because I start from there. However, a contrarian view is that all those studies that have happened, so they cover practically all the sectors. But when we speak of, now we are talking about staffing in manufacturing, how in certain manufacturing setup it actually relates to much higher productivity, whereas in heavy machinery and stuff, it there is still a lot of debate around it, how we actually are able to translate the efforts of diversity to actual productivity. So it is again debatable. Leaving with that thought.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vinod, you were saying something. Yeah.
Saying the more we see automation in the industry, possibly it will increase the number of female employees in sector. That's what going forward, I see that is going to happen.
Absolutely.
I think yes, definitely. Automation industry 4.0 definitely will be a accelerator in terms of gender diversity improving in India, especially in the manufacturing segment. So I think we are out of time. Thank you so much for being such a lovely panel. I think I personally have learned a lot, and in fact I've noted down some of the points which I will personally probably deep dive into, and I will educate myself more. Looking forward to more interactions in the near future. I hope the viewers would have a great takeaway from the expert panel that we have had a discussions. I'm absolutely very happy with the discussion and the outcomes that we had. Thank you so much for making time. Thanks a lot. Thanks a ton.